Kiddos, welcome back to Drawing with Trowbro, and today we're going to be looking at some op art. Now, op is short for optical illusions, and there's a lot of artists out there that try to trick their viewers to make them think that they're seeing something that's not. So for instance, this piece of artwork, it's got these 3D forms that look 3D, but they're not. But using a value, I can make these forms look 3D, and there's like some really famous artists like MC Escher that really has some impressive op art. You should look it up, it's really fun, and even though this looks really complicated, it's pretty easy to make, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so I'm going to start my op art with a single line, it's a little wavy, going right across the middle. And then I'm going to draw these little bitty hills going across the top, just like that. And I think when I'm done, I'm going to have, about like 8 of them. And then I'm going to go on the other side of the line, underneath, and draw the same shape basically, but below the other one. So they look kind of like footballs, or kind of like eyes with their maybe shut, or maybe even like a pair of lips. Alright, now in order to do this next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on just the left side. And I'm kind of curling my line. They look kind of like parentheses. Now I'm kind of just making this up as I go. It's like sometimes they'll get bigger, sometimes they'll get smaller. When you're all done with all of them, it's going to look kind of like a bunch of worms that are kind of like wiggling together. And the way we color it and we use value, it'll look more 3D. And so now I'm going to go and do it on the bottom, same thing. And I'm just going from kind of the edge on the left or on the right and then back. Sometimes you can go back and forth. It's whatever you feel comfortable doing. They look kind of like boomerangs a little bit too to me. Maybe like a Pac-Man shape. Just simple curves going around to the other side. And then kind of when you get to the end of the edge of the paper, you're going to have to like pretend like you're drawing. Like you draw it and then you reach the edge and then be like, okay. Alright, now I'm going to go to the next one. And you follow kind of the same rule. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to skip this first one or the second one and go to the third one. I'm going to make this one bigger so I can make that one a little bit smaller. So I can make it look like a really fat worm. And then I'll have like a really skinny worm that's kind of like coming up from underneath it. There's no set way to do this. You can kind of draw it however you want. There's no right or wrong. As long as you're just going from one edge to the next, you're going to be fine. Even without coloring, it's a really cool shape. But you can kind of see how I'm just going right into those creases. Think of them kind of like canyons, like they go into each other. Alright, I'm going to speed this up so you don't have to sit here and watch me do the whole thing. That's the nice thing about YouTube video is, you can pause my video, you can fast forward, you can rewind it if you didn't catch something, but I'm going to fast forward this so you can see what it looks like when I'm done with just the pencil part. Alright, so for this next part, I want to be using colored pencils. You probably could use Crown too, but you need something that can get value. Like I'm using a red right here, and if I push down really hard with it like a pencil, I can get a dark red. And then if I push down very lightly, I get a lighter red. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a pattern of every other. So I'm going to draw the dark red in the corners, like in the creases, like where it's folded. And then as I get to the middle, I'm going to lighten it up a little bit. So it's kind of like a really pressure hard in the corner. And then as I'm getting closer to the middle, I'm easing up my hand and getting a lighter color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that for every other of the little bitty shapes, these organic shapes that I have. And I'm just going to stick with the red so I don't have to keep switching back and forth. But, it's easy to make a mistake and to do 2 in a row. But, you just kind of push on, be conscious what you're doing. This is a very time-consuming project, so usually, I'll have something on the radio or I'll be watching TV kind of while I do it. Just because it's not very interesting to do. It's just physical labor, but it's one of those projects that when you're done, it looks really cool because people can tell that you spent a lot of time on this project. All right, I'm just going to fast forward to the red so then you can see me do my other color. Okay, so now with a blue color, I'm going to go in between each red and do the exact same thing. In the corners, I'm going to press down really hard, and then as I get closer to the middle, I'm going to lighten it up till I almost get like a white shade, or almost a very light blue. And I'm going to do this in between each one of the red ones. You can kind of already see as you do this, that value, that darkness in the corners and the lightness on the top, it starts to make it look 3D. It looks like this thing is like round and popping out at me. That's the ability of using value. You can really use it to your advantage to make things look like they're realistic. Like, there's some crazy like photorealistic artwork that you would think is a photograph, but it's actually a drawing, just because people have become like masters of using value. All right, let me speed up the blue so you can see what my first row looks like once it's all done. All right, so I got my first row done. Now your second row, you can really do almost whatever you want. I would probably choose 2 different colors, but if you wanted to, you could do like blue red on the first one, and then like, I don't know, green yellow on the next one. Then you could go back to the blue and red, and you could do, you know, like a pattern of blue red on one, green yellow on the next, blue red, green yellow. I kind of mix it up, but I'm gonna kind of speed this up because like, you know how to do this now. It's basically do this over and over and over again, and when you're done, you have this really crazy looking picture. So I'm gonna speed this up so you can kind of see what I'm doing, but I'm just taking my time, really pushing down hard with my colored pencil in the cracks, and then as I get up into the top, I lighten my pushing down, my pressure, I lighten it up, and then I go back down and I start to push harder, harder and harder and harder and harder. And that's a skill that's really important as an artist. So this is a really good exercise for you to practice. It's time consuming, I know. So make sure you're doing something else, talking to a friend, or watching something, because it's kind of mind numbing, but it creates something really cool in the end. So let's see what this looks like done. All right, I basically have all of them done, but so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back and make sure I get those corners really dark. So I'm just kind of touching up any areas I look, see if there's any little white areas that I can just darken up a little bit to make it look like, as you know, the colors get deeper into the crack, they get really dark. Kind of creates like shadows, just like makes it pop a little bit more, makes it look a little bit more realistic, and the more realistic it looks, the more illusionary it is. And then you have a really nice piece of op art. Well, kiddos, I hope you had fun making your op art. It's something that's a little tedious, takes a little bit of time, but it really pays off. It looks amazing, and it's really simple to do. I hope you keep practicing, and I'll see you next time on Drawing with Trowbro.